it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans. There's Paddy pointing into the camera there. Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome back to
I was checking which camera was on.
For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll have seen Paddy's index finger just pointing directly at you. Like he was like that Uncle Sam photo or poster from back during war times. But anyway, we're here today to talk about the question of, are Aston Villa gearing up for another transfer wave? I think it's fair to say that Villa have been through wave one of their transfers, their pre-PSR transfer wave. And I think we all expect the second transfer wave, but are we in the midst of it? And also with the Walsall friendly coming up on Wednesday, should we expect movement over the next few days? Paddy, there's been a lot has kind of happened since we've last been on. I think let's start with maybe some of the more familiar names that we've been linked with and that have actually come back to the club. But firstly, Paddy, Cameron Archer, it's been announced that he's rejoined the club. A lot of people were wondering what the hell was going on because Sheffield United had named him in the retained list. And then the next day, then he rocks up at Aston Villa, and Aston Villa had that announcement. What's your view on it, Paddy? I think we all expected it to go through prior to the official announcement, but where do you stand on Cameron Archer back at Aston Villa?
Well, I think we all knew from the initial announcement when he signed for them that if they were relegated, he was whatever they had put in the contract, that Villa had to buy him back at a specific price. I think what's happened in the 11-12 days since the transfer obviously elapsed is that the two clubs have probably been at loggerheads trying to sort out a fee for him to stay there, and that hasn't worked out. So Villa have exercised the right to take him back. And that's how I see it. I don't think there's anything else to report in it, really. Am I happy about him being back at Villa? I think he's had numerous chances, as we discussed yesterday, and you politely stopped me in my tracks and said he didn't do too badly, considering he was playing for the team at the bottom of the league and got a few goals in return. So I'm not going to be anyway harsh on him. I think there's a great prospect there, and it's just a question of now, does he stay or does he go? And my initial opinion is that if someone comes in with a decent amount of money, that he will go.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, I've seen a figure of 7 million bandied about that Villa have signed him back for. I think that's incredible business if you sign him back for 7 million. It's incredible business even if he stays or if he gets sold on again. Given the fact that that figure hasn't been reported from an official source, it's something that I just saw online. But if that is the case, I think it was a no-brainer to re-sign him and see what happens. And if he stays around, he stays around for 7 million. If he doesn't, then he goes out. And I think he probably will go out again. Maybe at 7 million, I'd be happy enough to send him on loan, provided we figure out what the terms of his contract are. Do we basically just take over the terms of his contract from Sheffield United, however long he's got left on that for 7 million or whatever the case is? I think if it's 7 million.
I genuinely think that unless there's somebody ready to come back in there, he's been brought back in, obviously because they couldn't agree a fee. And if there's any doubt about the Duran transfer, that's going to be say a lot about what we do with Cameron Archer, because we need to have bodies there for whatever happens in the future. And if it's not going to be John Duran, it'll be Cameron Archer until we bring in someone else. And we'll probably get to a few more names later on about things that are going on this, what appears to be a merry-go-round. But I think he's a definite body that can sit there and score goals from the bench. Indeed, scored against us in that game at Villa Park for Sheffield United. That stopped us going top of the league that game. He's proven he can do it, albeit he hasn't proven that he is the kind of striker we need to go into a Champions League campaign. But for someone to spring from the bench or give Ollie Watkins a break, I'm still on the fence to whether he is that striker just yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with yeah, like he's the type of striker that like can he like there's nothing to suggest to me that he can lead the line in a Premier League on his own. That he can, albeit sorry, I take that back. He scored 4 goals in one of the worst Premier League sides we've seen last year. But to me, there's nothing to suggest that he could lead the line for a 15 game or a 7 or 8 game stint if Ollie Watkins was out to the level that we would be expecting in a season where we need to fight on 2 huge fronts. No longer can we go into the Conference League and think that maybe, you know, in the first half of the season we can maybe play our way through that. The Champions League, you got to come out of the block strong in that one if you want to continue on in the competition. Last year, maybe we were primed for the first half of the season to be able to fight on both fronts, and as the season went on, we waned. But the fact that I'm saying is that I haven't seen anything from him doesn't mean that he can't do it. But going back to my initial point here as well, and I'm doing a lot of fence sitting here. I know I absolutely am doing a lot of fence sitting with Cameron Archer because, you know, this time last year for a lot of people he was ahead of John Duran in the rankings of our
second order. Yeah,
it was Ollie Watkins, it was Cameron Archer, it was John Duran. That was the case. I'm not going to try and rewrite history for us anyway, at least. I always did, when Cameron Archer was sold, I always did say that, you know, we haven't seen an awful lot from him. To get 18 million or whatever we got from him was absolutely brilliant, and it was. But going back to my original point, for 7 million, I think he's a viable candidate to be loaned out again. I don't think because we spent 7 million on him means that we actually have to sell or we have to play him. I think we could go and we could treat him and say, right, if Middlesbrough come in, or if a Burnley come in, or somebody who need a striker has come in and want him, we could loan him there for a season and get him to build back up in his price again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him stick around. I wouldn't be surprised to see anything happen with him, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. A lot of people have him tacked down as, yeah, we're going to sell him. It's going to be pure profit in the books again, which it can't be because we spent 7 million on him, or whatever we spent on him, whether it's 7 million or not. But I think people need to be prepared for that this guy may not go anywhere, may go on loan, he may be sold. So I don't think the story is written with Cameron Archer yet. And I think that look, you know, there was a couple of players that we probably didn't think would be like we didn't think Luca Dean would be able to improve for under Unai Emery last season. He turned out to be one of our better players. So yeah, we've seen that Unai Emery has worked with players and he has grown them. Let's see what happens, I think, with regards to this one. But I think he's going to be a player in demand at the same time. I just don't know, is he going to be in demand for the price we're looking for? And if that's not the case, he may go out and loan. Very long-winded way of me saying that. But yeah, so I think with Cameron Archer, look, it opens up a lot of avenues in the striking department. It muddies the waters as well within the striking department, because we've obviously got last minute Ollie pinged one in for England, and you know, what a strike and what a finish that one was. John Duran's future is up in the air, and Cameron Archer's future is probably up in the air as well from where we stand. So there is going to be something else done in there. There's going to be more shoes to drop in that instance there as well. Now, when we move back a small bit from the striking department, Paddy, we've got Jaden Philogene situation that's going on, and we've got the Moussa Diaby situation that's going on here. Let's talk about the Philogene situation firstly, Paddy. Lots of conspiracy theories going around about this one. Twitter really took this one to heart. This has become the fake moon landing of our generation for transfers. What's your view on it?
I don't particularly have one, because I've heard so many different variations of it that I find it hard to believe that any or all of them are true. I think we reluctantly let him go last year, probably to satisfy PSR, and maybe he's having second thoughts, haven't had him watched at length last season. And I'm just going to talk about the buyback as opposed to the conspiracies around what it's costing and whatever, because there's obviously a decent player in there that a lot of people are looking at. if we can buy them back at a reduced rate and sell them on at a better rate, that's great for our PSR again. But we just have to look at it for what it is, and if it's a buyback just purely to play football, well, you know, he obviously thinks he's somebody that's coachable and workable and is able to take him on to the next level. So that's what we have to look at. I think it is in the main picture. All the conspiracies of what's happening behind the scenes is a bit balmy, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens if we do actually take him back.
Yeah. So my view on the Jaden Philogene piece is he grew last year. He blossomed and he grew at Hull. And he scored some outrageously good goals, and he became an all-round team player, and he tackled back, and he did everything that we saw in pre-season. But he did it over the course of a full season and not pre-season. So I think there was a calculated risk and a calculated guess with regards to this from Unai. I think this is probably one of the smarter transfer decisions that Villa have made in a long, long time. Specifically the fact that the clauses that they entered into his contract, and I've never seen clauses like this entered in the Premier League. At the time, I think we spoke about this, how they do things like this in Italy. They do things like this in Spain to a lesser degree, but definitely Italy. They've got crazy contracts, you know, whereby we'll sell him to you for a year, and then a year after we buy 50% of his contract back, and then after that, then we've got a 5-year. Like Domenico Berardi, look at his contract between Sassuolo and Juventus over the course of his career. That is mentally bonkers. The way they've just literally just passed these transfer rights between each other for like years and years and years, and each of them are making money out of it, you know. And Juventus are making money not even taken back into their team at times, you know. So there's and it's not against the rules, and it's the way that like basically they're having his contract. And anyway, won't get into it too much. So when you look at the way that Jaden Philogene deal was done, I think it was really interesting because the clauses that were entered were really second level thinking, I think, from Aston Villa. Obviously the agreed situation whereby you don't have an agreed buyback price, because that probably deters Hull from playing him consistently. But what you've agreed is we get to match the offer of the other team. So that's a gamble, but it's a gamble Villa were willing to take. That he was going to go and excel. We could afford him, because at the end of the day, he's going to be a championship player. We could afford him. And it's not going to be 60, 70 million anyone's going to be bidding for him. It's probably going to be under 20. And that's what's happened. It's come in at about 18 million at the moment. But not only did they do that, they kind of hedged their bets and kind of went, right, no matter what he comes to, we've got a cutoff point where we can reassess him and have a cutoff point where we're not going to go above. And if we don't go above that, we still get 30% of the transfer fee. So it was a win-win situation. It was like every time you pull the lever on the jackpot machine, there's already 2 sevens showing on the screen. So you only have to hope that you get 1 7 at any given time. So the odds were massively in Villa's favour through that whole transfer. So yes, we let him go for a lower price, but I think that the reason we let him go for a lower price in hindsight is that Unai Emery always liked him, wanted to be fair to him, wanted to play the PSR market, as you mentioned, didn't want to play the loan market because of the PSR effects, and yet protect Aston Villa's interests. And I think that this is coaching tape. It's absolute textbook brilliant on how to write a contract for a club that needed a player like him, got a great year out of him, and will get the rewards and the benefits from him, as opposed to, and us get the benefits of it, as opposed to just sending somebody out on loan and potentially kind of wasting a contract year and a PSR year. So under the radar, great PSR stuff that nobody spoke about last year because it wasn't flavour of the month. And I think if something like that was done this year, people would applaud it, and they should applaud it, because I think it was brilliant, and I hope we can do more contracts like that. But where he fits in the team, Paddy, where do you think when he comes back? Because I would be very surprised based on his social media, and look, everybody knows how much I love Instagram, but on or don't love Instagram, as the case may be. On Instagram, he started liking posts from, I think it was Morgan Rogers and a couple of more other players as well, and giving the eye emojis and stuff like that. So I'd imagine he's on the way back. Where do you think he fits in the team, Paddy?
Well, I suppose the easy choice is to say he fits in as a backup to Leon Bailey, and will help give him a rest when required. Should he come back as our player and we not sell him on afterwards? But that, like, the left hand side is completely overloaded and the right hand side isn't. So apparently he can play off both sides. I haven't seen enough of him playing off the left, but definitely playing off the right, I think, is his preferred option. So that's where he comes in for me. as Leon Bailey's backup. And as you correctly said, we saw him grow as a player, and especially defensively in the championship, because you don't survive there. Teams can't survive with players hanging up front and not doing the track and back work over that marathon of a season. So it'll be good to see how he's matured. We saw him pre-season last season, and he actually lit up the games against Brentford and Newcastle, I think it was. So that's for me. That's the easy choice of where he fits in down the left hand side. There's just so many options. With all of those
down
players
the right hand side, you mean?
No, down the left hand side, I'm saying is our top heavy side.
Yeah.
So he definitely will fill that void on the right for a replacement for Leon Bailey, but which also I believe Illing Jr. can do too. So there's plenty of options.
If anybody listened to the All Villa No Filler podcast, I had a bit of a hot take on Illing Jr. that we have no idea where he's going to play, and don't be surprised to see him rock up in a position that nobody expected to see him rock up. I don't know what that position is, but I'm just saying a 20-year-old guy with the physical abilities that he has and the ability he has with the ball at his feet could end up more centrally, could end up on the right-hand side, or he could end up being a number 10. So I have no pre-prescribed thoughts anymore on Samuel Elling Jr. The more I think about it, the less I want to think about it, because the less I think he's just this huge joker in the pack, I think, somewhere along the line. So interesting one on that one. And I suppose really the knock-on effect, Paddy, of the Jaden Philogene Bidace transfer is we see that the Saudis are loosening up the old purse strings there for potentially a run at Moussa Diaby. What do you see the viability of that transfer is? Do you think it's a go, or do you think it isn't?
So first off, am I correct in saying it was £52 million or €52 million that we paid for him?
Pass. Next question, but I'll try and find out.
Yeah. So in my head, it was £52 million, which is approximately €60 million.
I think that was the overall value, but yeah, something along those lines. 55 million euros, which will probably
the overall value.
£million. Yeah, overall value. I don't know what the breakdown is.
Okay, so I can't imagine us selling him for the quoted 60 million figure. The 80 million figure, I think absolutely they would, if that was offered, they would take it. Not that I don't believe he could be the player that we expected to buy. He had, I'm not going to say a decent season. He had a good season, a good entry season into the Premier League. He didn't exactly hit the ground running and do it over a consistent basis, but we did get a return for him. But I don't envisage that we sell him for less than 80 million, having paid that figure. So the 80 million figure sounds like something that could be worked, but the 60 million doesn't, if that makes sense. And it helps on a number of ways. Does Unai Emery think that that's what he's going to get out of Moussa Diaby, or can he bring this to the next level? And that's the decision that Unai Emery has to make now with this offer that's allegedly on the table.
So here we go. I'm going to put on my conspiracy theory boots again and jump 2-footed into the puddle of this conspiracy theory. And what it is here, I think that Villa would sell him for 60 million. And the reason I think they would sell him for 60 million is, remember, when you're dealing with Al Ittihad or any of those guys, they're all owned by the PIF. They're all owned by the Saudi government, essentially, princes or government, whatever way you want to call it. Do Villa get their money back on Moussa Diaby plus, let's say, if it's £60 million plus £8 million? Do Villa get that money back in return? And in return, can they negotiate on somebody else that we've been linked with, like a Gabi Vega, like that right back we were linked with, that Saudi right back we were linked with? You know, because essentially you're dealing with for want of a better word, a corporation here that owns 6 of these clubs. And I think it's very difficult not to have conversations about the whole, about other players within the league when you're having conversations about one. Now, Matt Parker makes a great point here as well, in the comments. He mentions about Moussa Diaby being of the Islamic faith, being a Muslim. I wonder would that have any connection with, moving to Saudi Arabia might be something that he's always wanted to do, go to Saudi Arabia and so on. Also, Laurent Blanc is now being brought in as Al Ittihad's manager. That's probably going to be a draw. French manager, French legend, former French national team manager, big in with the French Federation still, and they've got Karim Benzema there. It looks like they're going to sign Hashim Awar, I think your man's name is, from Roma. There's a lot of things lining up here that there could be a French revolution at this team, bringing in a French manager, and they've got N'Golo Kante as well. There's a lot of reasons why I could think he would move to this club specifically in Saudi. Now, whether it happens or not, I don't know. But I think Villa would be cute enough to say, you want Moussa Diaby? Well, then we want the knockdown price on Gabby Vega.
Possibly. You make a good point about the French Revolution, because I always believed that players went over there and they were never going to get into their national side. And if you look at N'Golo Kante, he's a completely different footballer than what we remember him being, that little breaker of play in Leicester and at Chelsea. And he was just like, he'd been a brilliant watch throughout this tournament to see the different player and the pace of him. So the life over there has obviously suited him, the heat and whatever. So I don't think there's any fear that for Diaby that this is going to affect him internationally. And I would imagine it hit him pretty hard not getting picked for the Euros. So that in itself would lead me to believe that there is an opportunity there for him to still to play for France, even if he does go to Saudi.
And I think as well, it would be remiss to say, you said he had a good season. Absolutely, he had a good season, I think, at Villa last year. It gets really thrown under the radar that he had 19 goal contributions last season. That's a lot. That's a lot for somebody in their first season. Was he frustrating at times? Yes. Did he look like the smallest man in the field every single time he played? Yeah, he did. But he did things. When he did things, they were effective. When things went right for him, they were effective, and they had consequence with them in a positive fashion as well. I'm not advocating that we sell Moussa Diaby. We're discussing the transfer links at the moment, and the transfer links, as I say, this isn't the first time that he's been linked to the move to Saudi. They were looking for him hard last year as well. Yeah. It was between us and them to sign him. I don't know whether it comes true or not, but I think it's a very, very valid piece to discuss, because the PSR spectre for next year is still there. You sell Moussa Diaby, you sell John Duran, you get your 100 million back that you're missing next year. And I think that's a very, very, I think that could happen, and you can still buy players. Don't get me wrong. Just because you sell those guys doesn't mean you have to sit in your hands for the rest of the window. Everything else is amortized. You could spend another 100 billion on players, and it'd be amortized out over however many years it is. So it doesn't put you in the shit. It puts you back. It tips the scales in your favor if you sell these guys now. And let's say we keep Moussa Diaby for this year. And let's say that he doesn't. Let's say he kicks on next year and he's worth 80 million. Brilliant. Let's say he doesn't and he's only worth 40 million. Are the club looking now to go, right, we can recoup our money, we can go away and buy another person that we're going to talk about in a moment, a Semi Klich guy, or Federico Chiesa, for lower money, and amortize that out over the length of the contract? Is there a thought plan here? And I'm sure that there is somewhere along the line. If he stays, I'm probably going to get the Abbey on the back of my shirt next year if he stays, because I think that he's going to be a consequential player for this club. But do the club see the operational value in this? Because the Saudi money isn't going to be there forever. And do we take it now and get an uptick on our player and negotiate for another player that comes from there and see what happens? But there's a lot of moving parts in this squad at the moment, and while it's exciting, there is also trepidation of, fuck it, is it all going to work out? Yeah. So I see a couple of comments in here as well, so that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, and look, people, I've got in heavy on him a couple of times over the last season, and I think justifiably in some games he's been missing in action, and I think when you look at the season as a whole, it has been a decent season. But I think initially that 50 million price tag did weigh heavily on him, and he probably felt a lot of pressure that he probably hadn't felt in his career before. So I truly believe that we might spend something similar or maybe even more than that on one player this transfer window. So that might lift a little bit off him to go into next season if we keep him, that is. But there's, as you say, there's so many moving parts here that it's going to be an electrifying couple of weeks, because I would imagine by the time we go to America that Unai Emery would want all this done and dusted, and to have players up to speed and playing in his system ready for the new season.
Like, out of yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said. Like, you know, you get, let's just say you sell Diaby and John Duran for 100 million. All right, we're playing fantasy football here, right? We're playing Football Manager here. You buy Alex Baina for 40 million, you buy Chiesa for 35 million, you buy Semi Klitschko for 20 million, and you've spent, what's that? That's 55, 40, that's 95 million. You still have 5 million in the bank. So you still make profit on it. Are we in a better or worse position by buying Italy's starting right midfielder, Turkey's next big striker after, well, I suppose next big striker after the likes of, I was going to say Arda Güler, but he's not one of those guys, but, you know, somebody who was with Turkey, who I think really, really highly of, only 18 years of age, and Alex Baina, who was one of the assist leaders in Europe last season, so it's all well and good talking about sales in a vacuum and stuff like that, but I suppose when everything pans out at the end of the season is when we'll be able to have a lot of conversations about this. But I do agree with you, what you say there, what you said there as well, and it makes sense. It makes sense especially when you said, is there a big player to come in? I think if we lose two players for big money, I think we'll see numerous big players come in. I said two. I think we've got two big signings, and somebody like a 20 million Semi Klitschko is still in this transfer window yet. And look, that's not to say that we don't move on defenders and replace a defender there. We've been linked with other players there too. So it's really strange, because we always have to talk about the PSR piece. It comes into everything, and it pisses me off, but it's a factor now, and it's just something I suppose we got to just learn to live with for the time.
It's just that cloud that hangs over everything we say, and I do believe there's a big signing to come in, regardless of whether we ship people out or not. Who that is debatable, but there will be some. I would imagine there will be a couple of clever signings too, as we previously alluded to, free transfers and players who are out of contract. So, and best of luck to Callum Chambers, who has just agreed a package to leave today. So, very happy for him. I hope he goes on to have many more years and a decent career, because besides the fact he didn't play too many games, he was always willing and able and get stuck in every time we called upon him. So, best of luck to him from the Callum Chambers fan club here in
Absolutely.
Ireland.
You were stamping the tickets in the Callum Chambers fan club for a long, long time. Yeah, for sure. And yes, he does, absolutely. He's somebody that we got to remember. Has always put his hand up whenever he's needed. He's answered the call, and he did it last year when he had one foot out the door, and he's gone now to Cardiff. And I wish him all the success in the world. And there's been other outgoings as well. Tommy O'Reilly gone on loan to Shrewsbury, and
Felipe Coutinho
gone to Vasco. Actually, there's one, Paddy. 777 seem to be like they've lost the head of their footballing department, resigned recently, and it looks like they are rightly in the shite now. Maybe we see an Aston Vasco down in Brazil soon, because we were linked with our owners were linked buying a controlling stake there. So I thought something to watch out for, I suppose. 'Cause it's just manic, I suppose, with once again going back to all the financial side of things and creating holding companies and moving things X, Y, and Z between your companies now. The benefits of owning of multi-club ownership in different continents is huge. Even from that point of view, from shuffling funds and the dark arts of financial wizardry, I suppose, as well. So maybe Villa decide they want to go down that route, if there was ever anything in it in the first place. But something
I'd say it's highly likely there was something in it, and having a Brazilian what word you'd call it, but like a
footprint.
Yeah, and the fact that you can bring players in through Portugal, where we also have a player, we also have a club in there. So
think of my wavelength now, Paddy.
Yeah, so there's loads of ways of looking at it. Brazilian nursery, was the word I was looking for, in order to bring players in and spend their couple of years at Vitória Guimarães, who we've reduced our stake in because of the rules last year, but apparently Jim the Rat Ratcliffe, as I've now taken to call him, doesn't have to do that with his stake in Nice, because The rules don't apply to everybody, as we found out, and that's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Must have taken you ages to come up with that nickname for Jim Ratcliffe, Paddy. Where do you do it? Like, I would never have been able to come up with that. That's all I know. Never in a million years would I thought of giving him that nickname. There was one other player, as I say, Semi Klitschko was somebody that we were linked with, Paddy. Look, it seemed to come out from Turkey that Villa bid 18 million plus Alex Moreno on loan. I'm going to say that specifics of that deal smells fishy to me, albeit not out of the realms of possibility. I would not see Alex Moreno moving to Italy on loan for a year.
We've been told for 6 months that Alex Moreno is homesick. So why would he move to Turkey if he's homesick? So, it definitely didn't pass my smell test anyway when I saw it. So, maybe there's another player involved and someone put 2 and 2 together and come up with Alex Moreno. I don't know.
But the player himself is somebody we have been linked with. This is the third time we've been linked with him again. I know, look, the plural of anecdote isn't data. Like, when we get to that situation of how many times we've been linked with a player, otherwise Benny McCarthy, there'll be a statue of him outside the North Stand. But he is just a rapid player. He's absolutely brilliant. Like, I love Semi Klitschko, and I did a video on him. I think it was this time last year, and I discussed him, and like, he just knows how to play football at such a young age. I called him a bully in that. And what I mean by that is he's a bully because he's one of these players that's like, give me the ball and I'll show you what to do. Give me the ball and I'll show this team how good I am. And it's not a cockiness. It's like Wayne Rooney was. That's what I said about him. It's like Wayne Rooney. He's powerful in everything he does. He kicks the ball, it stays kicked. He runs with the ball. People are looking for him. He's gone past them. He barrels through people. He hops over people. He's an A to B type runner, straight line first, and like I just think he's really good, and I think at 18 years of age, if you were to spend 20 million on him, and if you've got what is it, John Duran is what, 20? Is he 21? If he was to leave and you wanted to fill the second striker position with a younger player as well, I think you've got a fully grown man in Semi Klitschko, albeit he's only about 5'10". He's not a big 6'2" or whatever John Duran is. He's a smaller guy, but he's a mature 18-year-old when you see him play football. And he had 11 goals last year in the Turkish league, which ain't a shit league. It's a good league. And in a team that, albeit that they finished 6th, they weren't pulling up any trees. There was 2 teams, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, were the 2 teams that run away with the league last year, the 2 of them. But this guy still performed in an underperforming team at 18 years of age. That shows character, and it shows a small bit of growing up and maturity that I think and he went to the Euros with Turkey. Yes, he didn't see any time off the bench, but he's 18 years of age, just soon to be 19. So I like him.
Well, I'm glad he didn't see time off the bench, because that puts him in the shop window. And you also alluded to Alex Baena as well, and I'm glad he hasn't seen time off the bench.
Yeah.
For Spain, and I'm hoping he doesn't come on and rip up this this final on Sunday and have the whole world looking for him, because I think they're 2 players that could come in under the radar. Not completely under the radar. Everyone knows how good Alex Baena is, but I think if either player come on and tore up the Euros and really made a name for themselves, then we'd be paying a whole lot more than what we might do at the moment. So fingers crossed we don't see him on Sunday. And
we won't see Alex Baena on Sunday. I can say that with great sincerity. I watch him come on now in the first 10 minutes after Danny Olmo gets injured. But I think this Spanish manager, I think he's found his joker in the pack in Mikel Moreno, somebody we've been linked with previously as well. There's no way Mikel Moreno is coming to Aston Villa now. But I think he's going to stay in Spain because he's a Spanish hero after that goal against Germany, wasn't it? That headed goal against Germany, I think it was. But I would be surprised if we see him. But like, he's another name, but he's just another name that won't go away, Paddy. Like, me and you've been talking about him for 18 months now amongst ourselves, hearing whispers here, there, and everywhere, coming from our side, coming from the Spanish side, and so on. So I wonder, is it an unrequited love, or if it's going to be something like, is there a touch of the mod gons about it, as we'd say here in Ireland, or is it or is it that's a niche one now. There's literary people will get that one, but not many other people. But or is he actually going to end up at Aston Villa? We'll see what the story is there. We'll see. Oh yes, one last piece, and Jonathan has reminded me there, Paddy. I want to Nedeljkovic. Seen pictures of him in a Villa in Villa gear now. He's fucking tall. Way taller than I expected. I know he's 6'2", and I know at the time, or 6'1" or 6'2", but geez, he looks taller than that to me. Looks like a big man.
He does. He fills that short very well as well. He's a big unit of a man. And look, hopefully the last season has stood to him, and he's worked on obviously his physicality. He certainly didn't look that way when we announced him. So that's obviously an aspect of what he was asked to improve on. Because God knows we've been lacking the big mighty players in our team. So it's great to have that option coming in. I hope he hits the ground running, and I hope he's able for the Premier League, because there's high expectations that he's coming with, despite the fact that we got him at a relatively decent price.
Brilliant price. Yeah, I was actually just looking up to see what we signed him for. It was like 8 million, and he's only 18 years of age as well. Now, a lot of people expect him to come in and just hit the ground running at right back. We will sign another right back, is what I'm saying here. If Matty Cash leaves, we will sign another right back.
I personally think we might see him in a more advanced position if needs be, if they can do a bit of moulding with him.
Who, Matty Cash or Nedeljkovic?
Nedeljkovic.
I think the opposite. I think they throw a cloth over him, and then he emerges as Branislav Ivanovic and plays as right centre back or in a back three. I've always thought that about him from when we signed him, but who knows? And the only reason I say that is because the Serbian people, the people of the country of Serbia, I think exactly the same thing is going to happen with regards to that too. But look, everybody could be wrong at that point. I forgot he's only 18. That's what I was saying. Like he looks big for an 18-year-old, and when we put it into perspective, we have another guy at the club that won't have a sniff. I would say he'll probably go out on loan again this year, because he went out on loan last year, but I don't think he's going to have a sniff of first team football. And Josh Feeney, who's 19 years of age, and he's 6'4". Another player that we really like. Saying he won't have a sniff isn't a negative on him. Maybe he does. Maybe he comes back and he rips it up. But I think a loan for him, maybe bring him back. Maybe he could be our Brantwaite type player who goes away on loan for a couple of seasons, comes back at 21, and everybody goes, "Holy God, this guy's after learning how to play football," and it's absolutely brilliant to see. Hopefully that's the case too.
Hopefully so.
Anyone we missed, Paddy? I suppose the only person that we haven't spoken about is Buendia. He's another fellow who's bulked up a bit since he was injured. Did you see the pictures of him? A bit of a.
Well, what else do you do when you can't use your legs, Neil? You sit there and yeah.
Well, Paddy, I got fat.
I remember when I did my ACL, I spent a lot of time lifting all sorts of weights that I wouldn't have even dreamed of doing. So yeah, it probably slowed me down a little bit when I did it, but certainly didn't slow down Emi Buendia, who looks as sharp as he was before his injury, and it's great to see him back on the grass. There's so many moving parts in that front line now. We can literally shake up, any formula to go and beat any team. So it really is exciting coming into the new season, and even more exciting that we're not finished yet. And there still might be one bolter that'll come that we move on. For example, a Diego Carlos or an Alex Moreno that we would expect to be part of the team. And we'll just have to do that to balance the amount of players that's in the squad, for one, and also balance the books. But there's a long way to go on this. But I'm super excited that it's only 5 days away from our usual Walsall friendly. We can get back to actually talking about football and not
and we'll have a short release, football, I would imagine, in between then as well. Judging by what Chris Heck said, that it'll be in the days after the European Cup final. I'd imagine we'll have a short release at some stage in the next 7 days anyway.
I
So
would imagine sooner than 7 days. I would imagine this will be done very,
me
very
too.
quickly. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm hedging my bet. I'm hedging my bets based on the fact that they may not wear it for Walsall. You know, if they don't, because we last year I don't think we wore our new shirt for Walsall either. If I'm not mistaken, was it last year or was it when we were in Australia that we wore like a training shirt? Or we wore just
Gee,
some kind of bland shirt for a game? Did I completely misremember that? I think it was last year
I don't
for
remember
Walsall.
it anyway.
I think it was last year. I think there was something where we didn't wear the correct shirt. Answers in a postcard for that one, to make sure that see how my own, you know, in the world where we're talking about
Probably
where the whole,
was last year because it wouldn't have been a good idea to go down to Australia in that soaking wet Castor short.
yeah. Well, in a world where the whole lexicon or the whole world is talking about cognitive decline, just make sure I'm not in cognitive decline and pop it in the comments there to make sure that I didn't misremember that as well. But I think just a small piece on Emi Buendia just before we leave, and I suppose bringing it full circle, going back to the likes of Musa Diaby. Musa Diaby was played more so behind Ollie Watkins. If we are to let Musa Diaby go, maybe the club feels that Emi Buendia comes back in because that's the place they will be playing Emi Buendia. That's where they played, where he played for Unai Emery previously as well. So, you know, that is another part of the transfer merry-go-round, I suppose we would take into account. It's just like trying to figure out where all the jigsaw pieces go it's interesting, and it's also mind melting as well at the same time. And none of these talks or anything like that may happen as well, so it might be wasted brain power, but it's fun. I think it's fun. It's like a crossword. No one cares whether you finish a crossword, but some people love doing them. And I think this is the same with transfer market and transfer market speculation as well. You know, so
Yeah. And I
yeah,
can guarantee that there will be a number of at least two different. If you were to pick your starting team now for that West Ham game, there'll be two players that aren't in that squad at the moment that will be starting that game, I would imagine. So there's a long way to go. What were we, about a month away from the start of the season? 5 or 6 weeks away. The excitement is starting to build. It means we're only 7 weeks from the Champions League draw. So a lot to look forward to. Really looking forward to seeing the new short and seeing the new bodies that are going to fill that short. So fingers crossed we see a big name come in soon and see them in the new Adidas short.
Yeah, I think so too. It's something. I'm going to go back to it again. Something goes through my mind about a sponsor not being fully signed up or whatever, and we wore a shirt that maybe didn't have a sponsor on it, or didn't. It was a different shirt. I don't know. Could be 100% wrong. So once again, if anybody can clear my mind in that one, I was feverishly looking for images there of what I see last year's game. We did wear the BK8 one, and I think maybe the year before we might have worn the old jersey is what I think might have been the case. But anyway, if anybody
Is that what Kat's saying there about the Leeds friendly? That would have been the year before, wouldn't it?
Leeds friendly was down under. That was in Oz. That was definitely in Oz because that's the time that Archie Gray died. Remember, John McGinn killed him, and he's been regenerated again through some cryogenic freezing or whatever. It's Demolition Man story. Anyway, I think they froze him and waited until the technology was there to rehydrate him again and get him fully fit. But yeah. Yeah, so Kat is saying here it wasn't the Leeds friendly. I could have dreamt this. There's a high possibility I could have dreamt it. I've been sleep deprived for the last 2.5 years. So there's a high possibility I could have dreamt this up as well. And Richie Ryan is going to post his answer on a postcard tomorrow. So do that. For the love of Paul McGrath at Ireland, just put in for the love of Paul McGrath Ireland. It'll probably get to me. We've got the most wonderful postal service in the world. Right, so I think that's going to do it. Thanks a million, Paddy, for your time today. Thanks a million, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'm going to do a small piece on all those individual players that we mentioned there, the Federico Chiesas. I'm going to revisit Semi Klitschko. I'm going to look at Jaden Philogene, and there was one or two other players that we've been linked with recently. I'm just going to release those. If you want something to watch over the weekend, you'll have plenty of those. There'll be 4 or 5 of them released all at the one time. Yeah, if you like that kind of stuff, that'll be coming out in the normal scouting series format as well. But we will be back with any and every bit of news that is Aston Villa over the next few days. If a shirt is released, if a player is signed, if a player is sold, we'll be back with it for you guys, and we will talk to you then. But in the meantime, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.